Today's story is one that we should all be fairly familiar with. Eve in the garden eating the fruit from the forbidden tree. It's a story that gets told to us in the context of original sin, the very first transgression against God committed by a woman. I would like to suggest that this, and God's consequences for transgression, is the legacy of Eve, and it's being played out in all of our daily lives on a daily basis. It's being felt particularly lately by women who have decided that they won't abide the maltreatment that has been passed along to them through the generations and are refusing to stay silent about microtransgressions that they experience from men over and over again. Let's for a second go back to Eve. Eve meets the serpent in the garden who, being more crafty than any other wild animal, decides that it's going to convince Eve to eat from the forbidden tree by suggesting that, unlike what God said, eating the fruit from the tree would kill her, the tree's fruit isn't deadly, and also that she'd end up knowing good and evil. So, Eve decides that she wants wisdom. The tree looks good, and the fruit would be good for her and her family for nourishment, and she eats and gives to her husband to eat. God decides there's consequences for this action, and as such, Eve's childbearing pains will increase from whatever they were before, and that despite this, she'll still want to procreate, and her husband will rule over her. This is chapter 3 of Genesis. This is the third chapter of the Bible, and we already have man ruling over woman. We've had this legacy with us for thousands of years. Every single day, women live with the consequences of this particular verse in the Bible. Women have been made subservient to men, and we live with that dynamic even now. This is what led to women not being full citizens until some of those women made a racket and campaigned to be citizens and have the right to vote. This is what led for the fight for equal pay for equal work, for the right to work in the first place. And we really still haven't begun to scratch the surface. Because really, I'm talking about white women who fought for white women's rights, often excluding the voices of women of color, queer women, and trans women. Eve chose to eat the fruit, then gave that fruit to her husband, and so women are viewed as dangerous. Our sexuality is viewed as dangerous. Our blatant disregard for the rules is seen as dangerous. This is why women who show skin are seen as sluts and whores. We're seen as being dangerous and provocative. We're seen as asking for it. We're told to cover up, shut up, and fall in line. Every single day, we are put in our place by strangers who tell us to smile, who comment on our appearance, who whistle at us, or touch our bodies without our permission. Every day, the Harvey Weinsteins, Aziz Ansari's, Gian Gomeshis, and Woody Allens of the world consider women's bodies to be their property. And finally, people like Tarana Burke, a black woman and founder of the #MeToo movement, are being heard. Finally, in the court of public opinion, survivors of abuse and harassment are being treated as truthful. Even the woman standing in front of you right now has been the victim. Me too, I say to you. I don't want to tell the story right now, but it wasn't consensual, and it wasn't just once. It was because a man thought it was his right to tell me what to do, and didn't think it was okay for me to say no. Hundreds of thousands of women told the most powerful man in America that this kind of assumption and behavior wasn't okay when they marched on January 21st of last year and this year. Eve broke the rules. She didn't do what God told her to do, and we are living with the fear of men who know that women are the first rule breakers. Eve was the first rebel, maybe the first feminist. Maybe we should all be a little more like Eve.